Hi, welcome to another insanely boring video. I'm going to talk about mixing or working production-wise on a song that was already done before I got it. This is James Gregory and the Seven Wonders. They are UK based. James Gregory's Irish boy and thinks he has a horrible Irish accent, but I've listened to a couple interviews and your accent's fine. I can understand you completely. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. And the band, I've seen them, I've seen some live footage of them. And so you've got a drummer, bass, guitarist, vocals. Everybody in the band will sing harmonies. I put that in quotes because, bass players, drummers, guitarists, stuff like that. These aren't professional vocalists, but the sound of the band requires a huge amount of harmonies and vocal reinforcement. They also have a horn section, which is pretty awesome. Keys. It's a pretty big band, and when you have that many people on stage, you have this incredible energy, and it really translates well live. Harder to get to translate on tape, especially if as a producer you're not there when they're actually tracking the stuff. So you'll get horn stabs that are really, really nice, but when you come into a section like you'll hear where the horns have to be really, really snappy and on top of stuff, everybody who played the horns just, there's no dynamics in it. It's not like bang, da 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 da, bang, da da. It's all da 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 da. So it's really, and with compression on there, it's really, really hard to get the horns to pop through a mix, especially when we have electric guitars in the mix. I added an ARP in the mix and a Fairlight. Almost inevitably, there's a Fairlight. Something on the Fairlight anyway. What did I also add? I laid down a piano. The piano track that they had sent, there was an issue with it. We cut drums here. Yeah. We did the drums. James and his group. So James has a home studio, and he uses all Rode microphones. And I have to say, in my career, I have never heard cello recorded as well as he did with these two Rode microphones. It's stunning. And all of his acoustics that he recorded are recorded at the absolute highest level of recording. He has close mic, far mic, and internal. He's got a Martin and a Guild, so we're talking, these are really good acoustic guitars. It's almost criminal that they get kind of blended underneath the mix. And that's something we're going to talk about. So let's talk about the acoustics. James Gregory is primarily an acoustic player and a singer. So the songs are written and structured around a full kind of acoustic that's played through the entire song. So virtually no dynamics really in the acoustic parts. And watch, I'm going to pull this up and I'll be wrong. No, so all your acoustics just kind of run through all the time. There's acoustic elements that are in here. You can see by the little tiny things. These would be like some little picking things or whatever that I had to pick up. Because I'm blending a left and a right, you can see I turned off the far mic and the I think this is the close mic, and I went with the DI'd signal on this on the Martin, and then the other ones I left in. These would be left and rights, and I've probably blended. Yeah, these are blended. So this is primarily a close mic, and this will be a farther mic. They are left and right, and you can see the level. So that one's left, and then it's farther mic is just in the background, and then the same in the opposite for the right. And this is interesting. So that one, this one here is missing its low pass. I can't remember. I think I put this at 145. Yeah, probably 140. I went here. Let's just fix that right now. Always fun to find stuff that I blew. All right, that'll clear up some more of my bottom end. And the two farm mics doesn't really matter. Who cares? So the songs are written based around the acoustic guitar and James's singing. Their guitarist is extremely talented, and he always comes up with these very, very unique and cool licks. I have no problem at all finding spots for Andy's guitar stuff in this. It's great. In this particular song, he's got this really cool kind of a Bruce Springsteen thing going on. Now, let me tell you, this is really hard to fit into this mix, but here's the riff. So this is, I've added a little bit of delay on it, or echo, and I build a drum room for the band, and it's usually an Abbey Roads chamber. I like the stone or the tile, but mostly I use the stone. There's a little bit of warmth to it. I don't know. There's some sort of wizardry going on at the Abbey Road studios, and what can you say, right? The snare and the toms, well, the three rack toms go into that room usually, and then the fourth floor tom will share a verb with the vocal a little bit, because it's usually an effect drum. It's like a canon kind of whatever, and it's going to be by itself. Like, you never do like a roll through all your toms and then just keep going past your floor tom. Your floor tom's your last drum, so you can have a reverb that kind of tails off nicely. So I usually will blend in the verb from the vocals with the verb from the floor tom, and then I'll also keep it in that same room, the chamber that I build for the drum kit. Any kind of fast guitars like that one that we just heard, I will put in the same chamber with the drums. It just puts everybody in the same kind of a room. The Abbey Road chamber is probably only like 20 feet by like 10 feet wide or something like that. So I have to see how many people we could shove in this room. Horns get their own verbs usually, but yeah, I can get the drums and the guitars and stuff like that all into that one room. Heavy electrics don't go into that. They usually get nothing, like nothing at all. Like, they're just dry. And what else? There's a lead line. I can't remember who played that. It was probably me. It doubles a piano part, so yeah, it probably was me. And so that's kind of where I go with that. Now, because the guitar work is like, the songs are all based around the acoustic, there's literally no dynamics built into the songs except for like big stops that James Gregory puts in. So here we have shots down here. He's got some whole note strikes here that kind of decay. And this is a song element that he uses. He starts with a certain phrase at the beginning of the song, and then later on in the song, to bring the song back down, he'll go back into that phrase. One thing he does in this song that I don't like, and this is just a button with me, is a very Disney kind of a thing to do. You are in the key of A through the whole song, you do your shot, and then you come back and you're in B. Like, you come back a full step up. I honestly hate that kind of crap. It works in this song, but I imagine that's just a nightmare for the horn players. Whatever, it's their problem. But there is a different tonality on the horns when they come back in that new key. And live, that you imparts a really huge sense of excitement and stuff like that. In Disney stuff, they are usually orchestral, so you'll get like a big swell that comes with that, and the swell is what gives you that warm flush through your body, and then it kind of hits with this new key, and you're kind of surprised. Well, I mean, you were surprised the first 30 years that Disney did it, but now it's kind of old passe production style. On this album, they only have 3 songs that do that, so I imagine that those 3 songs were probably all written around the same time, and James Gregory was probably working with the horn things, and he was trying to figure out a way to end the song, which gave it some sort of a modulation to make it exciting. And they were probably designing it live because, like I said, the production in the studio, we'll talk about how the production in the studio went, but the songs were written, I'm sure, I haven't talked to him about this, but I'm sure they were written to be played live. So Anyway, having said that, yes, it modulates up a full step at the end. The electric guitars complement, they don't take over the acoustics, aside from the fact that he has this kind of Bruce Springsteen kind of thing going on. And I really liked that. Let me tell you, when you hear the song, you will understand how hard that was to blend in. But I did not want to lose that element no matter what. All right, so vocals. Everybody who works in the studio has heard my story of James Gregory sending me the harmony tracks for one of the songs that had 122 tracks just for the harmonies. Going for the wall of sound. This one here only has, I don't know, maybe 10 or something like that. There's 5, 10-ish. And then there's the modulated harmonies at the end of the song. You can see I've turned off a whole pile of this stuff. And, sorry, Walls has the gospel stuff in it too. All right, so I've got 10, 15, and then gospel shimmer built, and there's one, I don't know, there's a good 10 or something tracks for the gospel choir too. Here, I'll just run the gospel thing. It's kind of cool. This doesn't have the top line on it. Yeah, so this is just the breakdown. All right, so the trick to doing a gospel choir, and this is what I would call a subtle gospel choir. The tricks that we use is, I mean, that's obviously Shimmer singing all of this stuff. So, yeah, that's all Shimmer. So I don't have, normally I'll get our keyboard player James to come in and lay down the really low one, or I'll lay down some bass or a baritone or something like that. When you hear the song, you'll realize that if I'd thrown those in there, you wouldn't have heard them. Here's the trick that we use to writing gospel harmonies. Every note starts with an M or an N sound, so it's something, something, something. Your consonants never line up, and your vibratos always trail off at different speeds, and nothing ever ends on the exact same time. So my experience with gospel choirs is the Whoopi Goldberg, whatever that movie was called, I don't know what the hell it was called. Sister Act. Sister Act 1 was the one I liked. Sister Act 2 had, what's her name doing the work in it, and her vocals are insane, so it really killed the whole gospel thing for me. But in the first movie, I really, really, really liked the arrangements and stuff on the gospel stuff. And taking from that, I understood that, okay, I mean, you have, like I said, you have the M's and the N's, which are really, really important. You have all the different vibratos. Basically, you have a group of really fantastic singers that are all singing their own style in a choral system. So anyway, that's how we build gospel choirs. And then we'll have somebody lay something over top of it as a lead, or generally it's one, like a soprano or something like that, like in Sister Act. And that's how we do those. All right, so James Gregory has usually one main line for a vocal, and then he has his chorus, and then he has like something that goes underneath. And in a lot of the cases, what he thinks is his main line is actually his harmony, and what his harmony is actually a better main line. I'm not sure how he does that when he's recording this, but I have often, when I get the stems from Mark in the UK, I'll be in the big pile of harmonies, and like 10 in, I'll be like, oh, there's James Gregory's main line. I don't know how it got buried down here, but let's get that out of there and bring it up. And there's been a couple instances where I've talked to James on the phone, and he's said, or texting, and he's like, you really picked the wrong one for that, because that was my other vocal line. And I was like, but I really like this a lot better. I'm like, that's because that's actually your lead line. Your other thing you sang was a harmony. For the most part, James Gregory sings all of his own harmonies. And normally that doesn't work with a singer, because most singers have a lot of character. James has here. I'll just let you listen to. This is one of his main lines. I'm not sure if this has been corrected or anything yet. So.
Whole service rode up, standing on their feet.
So it's kind of an alto, kind of a high thing, which is nice because I can build like this really, really thick mix, and no matter what, his voice is going to cut through, which is great. But there's not a huge amount of character. He doesn't have a hole in his voice like a lot of singers do nowadays. He's not affecting his vowels or anything differently. So you've got kind of a vocal that is more of an instrument in this song. So the only thing that's really popping in this song is that one guitar line that Andy played, the Springsteen kind of thing. So now I've got all of these vocals that he builds as harmonies. Now, he's an exceptional singer. He's an exceptional guitar player. But when I'm getting the harmony stems back, they're very, very random. He'll start on the same note as a unison, and then he'll come up with a different note on the end. And then the next harmony that we have stacked will start on the same note, and it'll go down or something like that. And then he'll do another line, and it'll have a 6 in there. And then he'll do another line, and he'll have a 7. And you got a 6 and a 7 in there, and then, someone throws in a 4, and now you've got a car horn. So he's not sculpting the harmonies the way we would normally sculpt harmonies in a band. So I'm more of a let's bury the harmony, like U2. I would like Daniel Lanois puts the harmonies down deep inside. So like 30 times into the song, you're like, oh man, I totally hear that now. There's a harmony in there. That's really, really cool. I like the subtleties and mix. These guys do not want anything subtle. It's like, this is our guitar part, we want it out front. This is our horn part, we want it out front. We want the piano out front. We want the vocals out front. We want all the harmonies to hit like a wall. So we go through like the 122 tracks of harmonies, and we try to figure out, okay, so I've got like 30 that are like unisons that all start on the same note, and then they all end on the same note. So we have to deconstruct all of the harmonies and then rebuild them into like a harmony thing. And we still have to kind of keep the whole wall of harmonies. Also, it works really, really well for James Gregory, because he has such a high voice. You need all of those voices in there in choruses and in verses to kind of like bold those sections or underline those sections. It just adds a dynamic to the song that it carries the main vocal, or it supports the main vocal really, really well. And because it's him doing 90% of the harmonies, it kind of really, really suits the airiness of his main vocal line. There are songs that we have that he had a girl named Sarah do some vocals on it, and it sounded really good. And Shimmer's been laying in harmonies on songs where her voice isn't going to take over, because the character of her voice isn't going to take over the song. You don't want your harmony vocalist or your background vocalists to have a character that makes people go, oh, I wish that person sang the whole song, or I wish that person was louder in the mix, that kind of a thing. You have to really figure out how to blend the character of all of the voices to, and this is like our main underlying thing. It has to suit the song. It has to serve the song. So if there's something in the song that, like a vocal line or something, that does not make the song better, it's just in there because somebody put it in there, it's gone. We lose it. If it doesn't serve the song, it's not there. So having another vocalist cut over top of James Gregory, which is like this kind of a high, kind of peaceful, kind of floats along the song, and you have somebody who has like a lot of character, or if I were to throw my voice in, you'd have a lot of dissonance. It would detract from the song, it detract from James Gregory's message. So we're very, very careful about that. His other singer, I believe her name is Sarah, she has a really, she's a soprano, and then she kind of brings it really, like really soft, like she's really into the microphone, and that suits James Gregory really, really well. For the choir part, It's fine. Shimmer did a great job on that, and I had to record them darker than you normally would, and she doesn't have a soprano line on this. There is another version of this song, and this is kind of cool too. So this is the song. I'll show you how we do this. This is kind of tricky. Here is the song, version A, and here is the song version B, and version B has the whole, you see, this is our, let's say this is our gospel section here. This whole section here is the gospel section in version B. So the record company specifically asked for a version that had a huge, long gospel part in there. They really wanted to feature that and put that as an alternative on the CD. Or, I don't know, putting it on a CD, but whatever, on the release. So as you're building your mix on song 1, you're actually building your mix on song 2. And then if I do like an automation or something like that, I'll just copy and paste it over. Like I'll take that whole part and then replace it over here because it moves the automation with the part. So I've got the Fairlight in here. Well, it's not, it's an ARP. So I've got the ARP here. If I were to grab that whole part and just drag it over here and drop it, all the automation comes with it in Nuendo and Cubase. All right. So that was harmonies we were talking about. And you'll see this is a very, very, all of these mixes are massively complicated. It's not like your typical rock band where you got a couple guitars in stereo, a bass that, you know, and an alternate bass for cool parts and drums and then vocals and harmonies and then all the really cool sound effects and stuff that we usually add. This is very complicated. So the bass in this song I re-recorded. That was because the songs, and when they're in the UK, they were coming from, so James Gregory records in his house with like really nice microphones, and then he takes them over to a studio local to him that also doesn't have enough space for a real drum kit, run by a guy named Mark. And Mark and him had been working for like a year or something, year and a half, on the mixes and trying to develop the songs, and they had programmed the drums. The drums they programmed were fine, except that these were drum tracks that were written by two guys who don't play drums. So that you heard that, like as an amateur drummer myself, it was driving me up the wall. I'm like, okay, like seriously guys, you can't use the same fill every time. You can't copy and paste that. You know, you have to lead off with your right hand when you're doing a fill, you know, and you can tell that your right hand was hitting a cymbal at the time and suddenly you have a fill, you know, stuff like that. So the drums sounded really fake. Like they just were not, and they weren't connecting with the band because the band wasn't playing with the drums when they were recorded, which is a big problem. And all of your cymbal hits were all the same volume and they were all predictable. And the on most recorded drum sounds, like digital drum sounds, when the cymbal is hit, it decays a certain way, and you might not think that a human ear picks that up, but let me tell you, if you hear a cymbal decay exactly the same way every freaking time, it drives you up the wall. So I know that on the Roland kit, depending on where you hit the fake cymbals, it'll decay differently and stuff like that. It'll react with, when you hit the cymbal twice, the waveforms react with each other and create comb filtering and stuff. The ride interrupts itself, and again, gets a comb filtering thing going on. Like they've really gotten a lot better at building fake cymbal sounds in to match the ones that we have. But then you're stuck recording those artifacts on the original recordings when you're actually recording the cymbals. And same with hi-hats, and I literally don't think they've got it yet. I think we're like 100 years away from getting cymbals to reproduce properly. We can do pianos and stuff like that, but cymbals, no, it's not working. So in our studio, we use a hybrid kit, so it's all real cymbals, and we have some really nice Pistes. So, and my ride, which is a C-sharp Zildjian thing that you could literally drive over with a semi-trailer and wouldn't wreck it. So the bass I laid in, these are the horn stuff. So I get all of the horn stems, and then I go through all of them. And the same thing with the horns. You'll get unison, and then they split apart, or you'll get them starting weird and then coming together. So some of the horn parts are sculpted properly, But for the most part, they recorded all the horns separately, so you didn't have one person producing, like one band leader producing the horn stuff. So your trombone player and your sax player and your trumpet player are playing what they would play, but they're not specifically playing something that you would have in like a band quartet or something like that. So we have a lot of unisons. Like we have a lot of trombones that are playing the same stuff as the trumpet. And they're very similar sounds, so you have to figure out a way to blend that in stereo. They've got a really great sax player. Actually, all the horn players are fine. There was one that I got from them where the horn player had just had his braces adjusted, and he was a trumpet player or something, and the embouchure was just hilarious. It was a lot of work to fix that, but it was like an hour and a half of me just giggling. It was a lot of fun. So I designed the horn folder into sections. So there's the theme, the main theme, and then the alternate theme, which is the alternate. So you'll have like a top line of the horns, and then whatever the alternate that carries it through underneath. So the two themes get shoved together into different folders. Most of these horns, once I've set their balances more or less, we lock them together so I could move the entire group up together, not like a VCA, but like the whole fader group. That way, it's just easier on my thing. I don't have to go looking for VCAs. I'm not a big fan of VCAs. Not when you can, do whatever the hell you want with your whole board. This song has a third theme in the piano solo, and it looks like I actually have a horn solo in here maybe too. What is this? Take a look. 3. What is 3 in Kontakt? Session horns. Yep. So I actually added a horn section inside their horn section because whatever, I guess I didn't have enough horns. So I got like 10, 20 tracks, 30 tracks of horns, and then I've got stabs, which is another 10 tracks or so. So 40 tracks of horns, and I still had to add in a freaking horn. Go figure. Let's see what else is in here. And then that's it, the drums. And so down here I've got a folder called Rendered. I've got his original bass track. And I've got a Mac trash can. It's pretty up there. It's not as good as Greg Wright's Mac trash can. I think he spent, I don't know, $30,000 or something on his. Mine's like the cheaper $10,000 version. And with the switch to 64-bit and the complication or the amount of plugins I use and the 10 to more complicated plugins like the Abbey Road Chambers and stuff, I am literally peaking out here. My processing I'm done. Like, this computer is loaded with RAM. It's got like 64 gig of RAM, which does nothing for processing. And it's just dragging its ass. So now I actually render out my synth tracks and stuff, and then I try to unload them as best I can. My Fairlight uses quite a bit of horsepower, and my ARP. Native Instruments doesn't do so much. Those are still floating around here. They're not. There's a piano, and I don't know what this one here is. I've got an upright piano with overtones. Literally, it's an upright piano. Wow. Oh, I remember why I picked that, because it sounded like a piano in a bar. So that's interesting. Good for me. Yeah, so I render out as much as I can to take some of the processing power off of the system. And even then, I'm running it right at the top. I've actually started using the Renaissance compressor. This is what it looks like on some vocals, because normally I use the CLA2 or the CLA2A, or whatever the hell Chris Lord-Alge calls it. But it's that's the one I normally use for vocals to make it to bring out the depth and the width and stuff like that and the body. But I've been using the R-Comp. A friend of mine uses it live, and it uses like 0 processing power, so you can put it on everything, and it's not bad. It's I run it in Optim mode and keep it warm, and it's a nice comp. I actually have it on that guitar part, that the Springsteen guitar part. All right, so let's run the mix, and we will talk about that a little bit. Starts off with the piano. And you can hear it's like the kind of a shitty bar piano sound kind of thing. Horns.
All servants were up, standing on their feet. The priest was pointing at me to take her hand, to take her children, to take her home, to take her away from this place. The walls knocked into the ground, build a log concrete around, raise it up, and in the fear, lay your hands over here. Always for love, never for money.
All right. So the horns don't hit as hard as you would want them to hit. Like, they don't slap you in the face. There's nothing I can do about that. They're there, but because the horn players didn't play them dynamically like you would want them to play those shots, and because there's so much of it, they don't beat you in the face. But you know what? That works because the guitar, the cool Springsteen guitar riff that Andy has, is more important to that part of the song. And there's like a ride thing that goes on there that I wanted to hear as well. So I'm like, okay, the things that are important in the song that serve the song element wise are those things in this section. And also there's a keyboard that fits underneath that. That's I use it to blend the horns together with the guitars. That's in there too. That's a subtle thing. You'd have to really listen to it on headphones to hear that stuff. But I'm not. I would like it if there was like a stab shot right on the start of the horns, but I think it would really kill the guitar. So it would be like an element I'd add in. I would listen to it like 10 or 15 times and then be like, this is killing the guitar. And I want the guitar in there. The guitar is the rawness of the song. You can see how the harmonies and stuff work with this song. They're very subtle and underneath. They're not as loud as we normally put them on the rest of the album, or normally have put them on the rest of the album. And the song just like it kind of bounces along as a wave. So I'm just gonna skip past here into the bridge part or whatever, the piano solo. I don't know what this is coming up.
Here, always for love, never for money.
Song-wise, this is a very, very cool, you know, but they hadn't put one in. They left a space for guitar solo, and I could have put like a Brian May thing kind of in there. And then after that, there's the piano solo. And they had a piano solo originally, and I have it running just underneath. But mine comes in a lot louder over top of the other one. There's something wrong with the piano that they were recording in this song. It was really, really dissonant, which actually led me to start thinking about, I should use like a piano that has like strange, whatever, bar kind of tones. Like it's not like it's out of tune, but definitely recorded weird. So I liked that structure in there. Like it really flows nicely. Like, you know, the side stick on the snare in there, it brings the song right down, and then it comes kind of back into this super happy bar piano kind of a thing, and then it goes back into the pre-chorus kind of chorus thing. And honestly, God, I'm not even sure if that's a chorus or what that is. I'll have to ask James Gregory if this is the chorus. Or is the part after the chorus with no singing the chorus? Because that's kind of the part I look forward to. So here we'll go past all of that stuff. What did I just do up there? I don't know what I just did. I did.
Build a log concrete around, raise it up, and in the fear lay.
I'm gonna undo the move that I just did. Yeah, I moved something.
Always for love.
All right, so here we'll go into this section here. Here comes our modulation. Now live, that would be awesome. People would start dancing even harder. And then I think the song has a train wreck ending on it of some sort. I'll give Andy this. His guitar tones are awesome. I just love it. It's like he's playing through a Vox or something like that. It's just all mid, warm, great tones. You know, it's just, yeah, he's got great guitar tones. That's one thing I didn't have to worry about, with the exception of the harmonies being all bizarre and the horn parts being bizarre. Everything that they sent me was recorded absolutely wonderfully. It's so nice. Like, it is really nice to get that from groups. But it's very weird to produce something that was already produced. But you can see I kind of muddled my way through it. Like the whatever Brian May solo is really cool, and then the piano thing is kind of an obvious solo. The stabs and the horns, I know I copied and pasted those and added more of those in. And the gospel part in the middle, honestly, I don't know what the heck we had planned for that, or what they had planned for that before, but it was certainly easy to turn it into a gospel part. And then the drums. The only thing I have that's an issue with me when you have a big, complicated mix like this is I'm a snare snob, and I'm just going to play the drums here for a second. And they're going to be oversaturated because the Isotope plugin is in right now, so it recompresses everything to ridiculous. But so literally, I think the Ochiltree snare is the best sounding snare that was ever made. It is absolutely my white whale. I want to own the one that Jeff Ochiltree built out of melted down Paiste cymbals. I think that's just fun. At some point in time, someone's going to be selling that. But Ochiltree was the drum tech for John Bonham before he passed. So most of the drum sounds that we use today, he pretty much invented all of this stuff. And nothing bugs me more than a really nice snare that has absolutely no overtones at all. Like, I don't even understand why would you do that. I can see that when you're rehearsing in a band environment and you're like, you know, sticking duct tape on your snare or moon jellies or whatever to control the pinging sound because, you know, it's loud and whatever, it bugs everybody. But in a recording or in a live environment, the first thing I do is go in to talk to this drummer and say, yeah, I'll take care of the ringing. You just get rid of all those jellies. If you can't tune your snare, it's fine. We'll get somebody to help you with that. But get that crap off your snare, because that's what you're doing to it now is the way it's going to sound in the mix. But if you do it to it now, it's going to sound like you're hitting a dish rag in the mix. So let us deal with the overtones. You just play the damn drums good. So that's my pet peeve on that. And unfortunately, because this mix is so complicated and there's so much going on, that the compression, when it blends everything together, I'm missing a bunch of the overtones on the Ochiltree, and I'm sad about that. But I don't have the ability, engineer-wise, to figure that out, so we have to go with it. One thing I do is I sidechain the bass guitar to the kick drum. So whenever the kick drum hits, the bass guitar shuts up. I like kick drums in my mix, and I've got nice DWs, so that's what we go with. And as from that, that's pretty much it for this song. This mix is pretty tight where I need it to go. This is going out as a single. I don't know what the day is today. It's like the 24th or something of August in COVID year. And they're releasing this one probably next month, August, September. The record company's been doing singles, which has been helpful for me because this project came as one song. Here, we have this one song. Can you mix it? And I got it, and it's actually a Spanishy kind of song. So I'm like, well, if I was going to mix this, I should mix this to fit in a movie. And Coco is the audio in Coco, the movie, was phenomenal. Like, it's just, it's ridiculous for these recordings. And I'm like, this song should be mixed so it could just fit right into this movie. So I worked with it for like a week and a half, and that's exactly what I did with that. And they sent it to Abbey Road to master, and the guy from Abbey Road, I can't remember his name, and that's terrible of me. I should know his name, because he sent it back with, it was just a little bit louder, but aside from that, he had made no EQ changes or anything, like nothing. He just got it louder. Because that was back when I was in the loudness wars with everything had to be minus 14 or 14 lufs or whatever the hell that was. And yeah, don't get me started on that. But that was my first, Abbey Road's probably the best studio in the world. I mean, East West in LA is really, really nice. Ocean Way, the record plant, whatever the place that Merrick's working at in New York. There's lots of really, really great studios and stuff like that. Blackbird. But Abbey Road's is the definitive. This is the studio you want to mix in. This is the studio you want to master in. So having one of my mixes come back from Abbey Road with no corrections, that's a big feather in my cap. I was pretty happy about that. And now I've got a mastered version of a song from Abbey Road that I mixed, that now I know exactly where to set the levels for all of my exports and stuff like that. So all they have to do when they're in Abbey Road, if they're mastering, is, meld the album together to make sure that I got all the sounds right, and, check for phase coherence and stuff like that, DC offset, whatever, because I don't bother with any of that stuff. Anyway, so that's James Gregory and the Seven Wonders from the UK. Their second single, Walls, which will be released this month or next month. And I'm not adding anything else to that. I might add a soprano in the gospel thing, because I have to add all of the gospel sopranos and solos in the other one. And 10 to 1, I'm going to find something I really, really like when Shimmer lays those in, and I'll have to put it back in the song with the shorter gospel thing. So when people hear the shorter one that's on the radio, and then they hear the longer one, they're like, oh, wait, what happened to that part? Like, this isn't, On the other hand, it might be cool to have stuff in the gospel part that they are surprised to hear. I have to think about that. Anyway, so that's that song, and I wasted another 45 minutes of your lives.